reign of King Aegon V Targaryen, the unlikely king whom had spent his youth travelling up and down Westeros as a squire to a hedge knight, came to a sudden and horrific end in 259 AC. It was not a rebellion or an uprising that ended the life of King Aegon, whom had faced many over his reign, nor was it Maelys Blackfire and the Band of Nine, or an unexpected illness or assassin. In fact, something altogether very different. A tragedy that would forever change the fate of Westeros and House Targaryen forever. As the king grew older, he had become obsessed with one thing. Something he had seemed intent on, dragons. And Aegon had come to dream of dragons, flying once more about the seven kingdoms of Westeros. As we have few historical accounts of this aspect of King Aegon's reign, it has sparked a debate among the maesters about the nature of the dreams Aegon had spoken of. Were they dreams of a normal man who wished to regain the power of years gone by, or were Aegon's dreams, in fact, dragon dreams that had haunted House Targaryen for generations, dating back to before the doom of Valyria itself? We can never know the truth of the matter, but what we can say for certain, the king, one way or another, dreamed of dragons, and restoring House Targaryen to its zenith once more. Aegon V was not the first king to express such desires, since the last dragon died in the years following the Dance of the Dragons, during the reign of King Aegon III. Some of his predecessors on the Iron Throne brought septons to pray over the last dragon eggs, mages to work spells over them, and maesters to pore over texts, but no dragons ever hatched. Even following the Targaryen tradition of placing eggs in a cradle of a young prince or princess did not bring a dragon into the world. Many believed that dragons were in fact gone from the world forever, to the dismay of some and the delight of others. Aegon's friends and counsellors did their best to try and dissuade the king, with some arguments being made that while the dragons did give House Targaryen near unlimited power, their mere existence almost brought down the house itself when dragons battled dragon. While House Targaryen was weakened without the dragons, in the near 50 years since the end of the Dance of the Dragons, they had adjusted to rule without them, and had even proven with the defeat of House Blackfire they did not need them to win a war. As his advisors and friends pushed back, it is said that King Aegon grew even more convinced that only with dragons would he ever wield sufficient power to make the changes he wished to remake the realm and force the proud and stubborn lords of the Seven Kingdoms to accept his decrees. Some historians attribute Aegon's actions to frustration. The king was a good-natured man whom only ever wanted to help and protect his people from the highest lord to the lowest of flea-bottom whores, while Aegon's detractors would make an argument that Aegon's words and actions could be seen as that of a tyrant. Of course, not to the scale of the likes of King Aegon IV or Maegor the Cruel, but a tyrant nonetheless. In reality, perhaps there is an element of truth to both of these arguments, but what we can say is this: the king's will was the king's will, and against all advice and pleas for reason, King Aegon would have his way. Thus, the last years of Aegon's reign were consumed by a search for ancient lore about the dragon breeding of old Valyria. It is said that Aegon scoured every library in every keep in Westeros, looking for any old dusty tome that could be of use. That Aegon commanded journeys all over Essos, at great expense to the crown, to places as far away as Ashai by the Shadow, with the hopes of finding texts and knowledge that had not been preserved in Westeros. Some even say he considered sending explorers to the cursed ruins of old Valyria itself. Perhaps the king came to his senses with the folly. May perhaps, being a lover of history, he recalled the gruesome fate of Aeria Targaryen back in the days of the old King Jaehaerys. Or maybe no man brave enough to venture into the smoking sea could be found. All of this would lead to one conclusion, one event that would forever change Westeros: Summerhall. What became of the dreams of a dragon was a grievous tragedy born in a moment of joy. In the fateful year of 259 AC, the king summoned many of those closest to him to Summerhall, his favourite castle, and the castle of his childhood. He gathered them there to celebrate the impending birth of his first great-grandchild, a boy named Rhaegar, to his grandson, heiress and granddaughter Rhaella, the children of Prince Jaehaerys, and his sister-wife, Princess Sarah. The tragedy that transpired at Summerhall left very few witnesses alive, and those who survived would not speak of the horrors they witnessed. A tantalizing page of Gyldayn's histories has surely one of the very few last accounts written hint at much, but the ink that was spilled over it in some mishap blotted out too much. But what is left reads the following. The blood of the dragon gathered in one, 7 eggs, to honour the 7 gods. Though the king's own sentence had warned, pyromancers, wildfire, flames grew out of control, towering, burned so hot, died. But for the valour of the Lord Commander, we can piece together a rough idea of the events that transpired at Summerhall. The castle was near on burned to the ground in a huge fire like none had seen since the days of dragons. From the remaining parts from the letter in Gyldayn's histories, we can surmise that the blaze was likely caused by wildfire that the Pyromancers Guild of King's Landing were perhaps using to try and hatch the dragon eggs. Needless to say, the fire became uncontrollable, and before anyone knew what was happening, the whole of Summerhall was ablaze. King Aegon V died in the fire. The histories do not recall if Queen Betha was also in attendance, but if she was likely lost in the fire. Given that we have no record of her after Summerhall, have left many scholars to speculate she died alongside her husband. The king's eldest son, Prince Duncan, was lost. While we cannot say for certainty, more recent historical notes suggests his beloved Jenny of Oldstones, the woman he gave up a kingdom for, perished as well. The Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, the legendary Sir Duncan the Tall, also lost his life in the blaze, but from the accounts that we have, it seemed he died heroically, trying to save the lives of others. It is speculated that Prince Jaehaerys Targaryen was present alongside his wife Sarah, but made it out of the blaze. Their children, Aerys and Rhaella, also escaped the fire. It is speculated that Sir Duncan the Tall was involved in their escape in some capacity. It is also believed that Jenny of Oldstones, Wood Witch, later known as the Ghost of Highheart, also survived the fire. With the death of King Aegon V, the crown passed to his second son, the now King Jaehaerys II Targaryen. As Summerhall was burning, Princess Rhaella gave birth to her and Aerys' first child, a son they named Rhaegar. While there is still a lot we do not know about the tragedy at Summerhall, and to the extent the series of events that transpired that fateful day, we can say for certainty it would forever leave a scar on Westeros and the fate of House Targaryen.